Welcome, everybody. It's Josh Milliken from Dread Central, your host for another episode of Dissecting Horror, a virtual panel series made to approximate the film festival or convention experience. Yeah, little technical hiccup there, one that I was warned about. So yeah, I'm here today with a very special episode of Dissecting Horror. We've got the cast and creators of Artificial, an interactive sci-fi series that's so cutting edge, I'm still wrapping my brain around it. It focuses on an artificial being, artificial intelligence, and it explores a lot of the issues that have to do with humanity and technology in some shows we've seen like Black Mirror and other films that blur the line between horror and sci-fi. Artificial, however, is unlike anything I've seen before. And even though it was launched a couple of years ago, it's almost perfectly made for the current times that we're living in. And you'll see what I'm talking about because we're going to show you a preview clip. But before we do that, I want to let you know who I've got here on the panel with me. Bernie Sue is the co-creator, executive producer, showrunner, director, and head writer. How you doing, Bernie?
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Have you here. Can't wait to dive in and tell our friends what it's all about. We're also on the Artificial Twitch channel, so I know that you've got your own people tuning in. That's awesome. You guys can submit your questions on Facebook or through Twitch if you can get them to me. And we're on Facebook, Dread Central's Facebook page, where we got a lot of the horror fans who might be hearing about Artificial for the first time. But I want you guys to stick around for my talk with Bernie and the crew. That also includes Evan Mandery. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yep.
Evan is the executive producer, co-creator, and creative co-writer. You're a really creative guy working on Artificial, and really glad to have you here. Thanks for donating your time.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we've got the star and the focus of Artificial, Tiffany Chu. Welcome. You play Sophie, who then becomes Lilith. It's complicated. I'll give you a chance to explain all that. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
Right on. Hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah.
Your smile looks much more natural in real life than it does on the show.
I hope so.
Yes, indeed. We'll talk about what it's like to play a robot and much more. Then we have Christy St. John, who plays Elle. Christy,
what's up? Yes, big shout out to Vomidace1 for following us over to this channel. Thanks for being a super fan, man. And most nuts ever. I give you credit, even though your screen name is.
Right on. Well, I'm excited to talk about your character, Elle, and Artificial in general. Almost ready to look at that clip. Last but certainly not least, Alejandra Reynoso. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, perfect.
You play Kira Castillo on Artificial, a very complicated character. And I'm reading your bio. You've got a lot of great things going on as well. So really happy to have you here. How you feeling?
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, fantastic. Hopefully you still feel that way in an hour. Josh Milliken from Dread Central here with the cast and creatives of Artificial. If you're not familiar with the show, let's give you a crash course with a recent preview that kind of encapsulates everything so far. So sit down for about 2.5, 3 minutes and take this all in.
Not sure if I can say the same. So you were the one that led the claim on my daughter.
Just doing my fiduciary duty.
I didn't even realize you're on the board.
You always seem to have your head in the sand.
And you always have your head in the clouds.
Are you holding a grudge, Dr. Lin?
Yeah, I might be.
Well, there's no one to blame but yourself.
You tried to take away my daughter.
She wasn't your daughter. She's a piece of intellectual property you built under employment.
And you left me no choice but to get in bed with Sebastian.
That's rough, buddy. But I'm sure you're not calling to rehash old grievances.
No, I'm not. I need to know more about him, Sebastian.
My, have the tables turned. How desperate are you?
Desperate enough.
Well, Sebi. Sebi is arrogant, bombastic, manipulative, always has been, always will be.
Tell me something I don't know.
You're trying to decide whether to agree to this charade he's calling a trial.
Considering it. But what is his motivation?
Well, he's a classic Scorpio. Passionate, determined, stop at nothing to get what he wants.
You don't really believe this nonsense, do you?
You don't really believe that the robot's your daughter, do you? Well, we all have to believe in something, don't we, Doc?
Why would he be so eager to help me out with this trial?
I'm not sure. If I had to guess, he'd probably do something with the potential of AI. Hey, isn't that what you've been fighting for?
Well, I've been fighting for a lot lately.
A piece of advice you keep hearing but don't seem to be listening to. Don't trust him.
So you don't think I should do this trial?
No, that's entirely up to you. I didn't say don't work with him, I said don't trust him. And if you're gonna get into bed with him, make sure you get what you need. Wink, wink, Dr. Lin.
So let me apologize because I kind of did a little false advertising there. That was not a trailer with a summation of the series so far. That was a clip from a recent episode, but it was a good clip for us to share. And I'm going to let Bernie explain why. Bernie, tell us what we just saw and how that relates to the series.
So you saw the scene between the characters, Matt, who is the creator of the AI, Lilith, and Xander, one of the kind of antagonists of the show, played by Dante Bosco. And what it kind of lays out is the kind of two of the big themes of the show is currently the control of the technology of the character that Tiffany plays, and you see the kind of jockeying between allies and enemies potentially together. And number two, what you have is the kind of the drama of the show being set up here in this clip as well, where Matt, who created is the lead kind of designer of the technology, isn't sure where to turn. So as we are a sci-fi series about an artificial intelligence being and kind of laying in the thematics of current state of humanity and AI, we're also a character drama. And I think that clip does actually a really good job. I actually believe that clip was written by Evan, the Matt Xander scene.
Fantastic!
Yeah,
fantastic.
So that it's just kind of showing the dichotomy of those two characters. So
well, let's put on the brakes a second, back up a bit, and I want to ask a question for you and Evan. Not so much a question, but tell us a little bit. Give us a really quick 1 or 2 minute overview of Artificial, which is it won an Emmy. It's the first Emmy for a Twitch immersive series. I mean, that right there, I know that we've got some Dread Central horror fans already going, wait, what? Tell us a little bit about what you guys have created and how it works on Twitch and why Twitch is the perfect medium for it, and explain how, as viewers, you're actually participants in the creative process.
Wow, 2 minutes? Okay.
I know, right? Stop now.
Okay, well, I'll go real quick on the Twitch part, and then Evan should talk about the origin of the concept. So on Twitch, it is the first Twitch Emmy, and what the concept of it is that the story of the AI being and Twitch as an interactive platform. So we say that the audience is consequential to the story. So you, the audience, can interact with the characters and change the story in real time many times, and sometimes in ripple effects for the future of the story. So that's the promise of the show. We're a sci-fi drama, we're live, we're scripted, we're interactive, and you, the audience, are consequential to it. So that's what the concept is. We're now in our 3rd season, and another great thing about the clip you saw is that you see that we actually do the entire show remotely. So, for example, even though Tiffany, Evan, and I have been working together on the show for a few years, Alejandra and Christy are brand new to the show, and we have not physically met. Like we have worked on the show for months, and Tiffany and Christy have had hours and hours of scenes together now, and have not physically met at all. So we are a show designed in this current season. Now, we didn't always make the show remote, but in the current season we do the show remote on Twitch, again, weekly, interactive, consequential, all those things, and that, I think, is partially why we have won the Emmy, or won the Emmy previously. But the genesis of it is from Evan, who came up with this really just meaty concept of intrigue with the genesis of the idea, which was then converted onto the format. But I'd like Evan to describe that.
Take it away, Evan, because it's like, not only is it a show about high technology, it is high concept technology in action.
So the original premise of the show, an important part, is that it's set against the backdrop where there was a school shooting in this community a little less than 10 years before. So Matt, the computer scientist who's the main character, lost a daughter in the shooting, and his creation of Tiffany's character, which has gone through several different instantiations now, is actually a way of his working out his grief. And everybody in the community in the first season, all of the characters in the first season, were affected by that. He is trying to have Tiffany's character, Sophie, pass a public Turing test. She's learning from her interactions with the audience, and she's proving her humanity to the audience. And at the end of the 2nd season, in perhaps an act of free will, she ends up killing a conspiracy theorist who argues that the shooting was like a false flag operation set up by, gun control advocates. And so in the 3rd season, Christy's character, Elle, is managing the development under the auspices of a possibly sinister mastermind, Sebastian. And it's a different version of Sophie. It's a rebooted version. There are a ton of amazing things to say about Tiffany, both as a person and as an actor, but I actually don't know how she pulls it off, but she acts different versions of the AI, and they're noticeably different. So that's where we are. And if you're picking up the story right now, we've just had talk about Consequential. The Twitch audience just was the jury in a trial of the computer scientist, Matt. And they had the decision whether to hold him accountable for the AI's crimes. And Bernie can put his hand on his heart, but I know it's true. He would have been off the show if the audience had found him guilty.
Wow.
So that was about as consequential as you can get, I think.
Well, fantastic. Let's talk to Tiffany and try to figure out how she does it all. First of all, Tiffany, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Can you kind of introduce yourself to our viewers who might be meeting you today for the first time?
Yeah, I'm Tiffany Chu, and I played Sophie and now Lilith on season 3 of Artificial Next. And if you guys haven't checked us out, we're on Twitch.
Fantastic. Now, explain a little bit about your character/characters, and in doing so, kind of flesh out the story a little bit more for some of our horror fans who are learning about Artificial for the first time.
Yeah, so in season 1, it was pretty bare bones with the character of Dr. Matt Lin creating this artificial being daughter. And it was a simple project with just having her interact with the Twitch audience to help her become more human. And eventually we see that story evolve, and to the consequences of what happened at the end of season 2, even though the body is the same for this artificial intelligence, it's now Lilith. And we can visibly see that Lilith is way more advanced. And it's definitely been a different dynamic, because I felt like with season 1 and 2, it was very between Sophie and Dr. Matlin's relationship and having the audience being a part of their life. But now in season 3, I feel like it's way more exciting. It's way different. And it's with, with Christy's character, Elle, and Alejandra's, Kira, and having them being more like, they are the ones who are trying to figure out, like, amongst each other who they are and what their relationship to what to do with Lilith's character. It's an interesting thing.
I will add one thing about this season, because as she said, it's a reboot of her. And what we actually did is it was a clean slate reboot where we had the character not even named going into the season. And so we set it so the audience could literally name the character. First thing they did in the season, season premiere, first scene, here's the new AI, name the character audience, and the audience through Twitch chat and so forth, name the character. So the version that she's playing today, I think is really fascinating from the outsider in a sense. I'm looking, and Tiffany can speak to this too. It's like she's playing a character that we do not have a like plan for.
The rehearsals for that first episode were so tough because the name kept changing. I thought it was going to be Autumn. I did not think Lilith would win.
Yeah, and so there were different versions of that, and you think like the personality traits that she's developed as a being, as an AI being, all picked by the audience. Sure, some of them were vetted by us, but they ultimately picked them, and it makes to her character, of course, as Evan said, like, the character is very different from the Sophie character. Tiffany's playing her differently. It has different mannerisms, different personality traits, and I think it's a fascinating result of the audience being involved in the story.
Yeah. I mean, what you're demonstrating is that this really isn't just a choose your own adventure thing. This is a create your own, help create. I've never heard of anything like it. It's truly fantastic. Let me hop over to Christy St. John. I heard a rumor about you. I heard that you're kind of smart.
Yeah, I graduated cum laude from.
Stuff. You know some things about some stuff?
I do.
You got an advanced engineering degree, yeah?
Yeah, from Carnegie Mellon University.
That sounds like quite an accomplishment. And you decided after that to get into acting.
Yeah, my parents were thrilled. I got my degree and then I shipped out to Los Angeles to become an actor. I was excited to see this audition come through because I know what it means to be a young scientist, especially as a woman who's kind of underestimated and thrown into the deep end and told, like, swim.
Yeah. Well, tell us now about your character and how that character fits into this really complicated saga.
So I play Elle. She's an idealistic scientist. And after season 2, so after Sophie killed someone and was deactivated, Matt could not be her primary caregiver anymore. So they had to hire someone, me, on in order to become friends with Lilith and help her grow and develop as a person. Now, I don't actually know what Lilith's directives are. Christy, do not know what Lilith's directives are, and neither do I know what Lilith's directives are as the character of Elle. So I can tell there's some nefarious play going on, but I specifically don't know what it is.
All right. Very exciting. We've actually got plenty of audience questions coming in, so I'll be getting to those momentarily. Alejandra, I wanted to talk to you though first. Welcome. How's it going?
It's going well.
Good. You've got quite an impressive biography as well. People might not recognize you, but they might recognize your voice. What might we have heard you on?
Probably Castlevania. I voice Saifa Belnades. She's a speaker magician.
Nice.
So definitely the horror community, I think, would probably know Saifa.
I think so.
Yeah, and for a long time, I played a fairy on a Nickelodeon show called Winx Club. Very different. So yeah.
And you're also in a dance troupe or something?
Oh, no. So I used to dance in a group. Right now, I don't. And obviously, we're all in quarantine. But yeah, when I was at Stanford, I was dancing ballet folclórico, which is traditional Mexican folk dance. And so we had like a campus group, and that's where I performed.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, tell us about Kira Castillo and how she plays into the saga of Artificial.
So Kira is an interesting one because she was the first entirely fan created character. So she wasn't even just a pre-existing shell that then it was like, okay, let's give her a name, let's give her all these things. Like there was no Kira, there was nothing there. And then Bernie did a live stream with Justin, who is also on the show, and they were like, all right, we're gonna make a character that is in some way connected to the Justin character. And chat, you're gonna write it, you're gonna participate in these polls, and we're gonna name her, we're gonna give her an occupation, character traits, how she's connected. And then the team just had to jump in, cast a character, write it, and it completely changed the direction of where things were going. So she's a private investigator. She's a PI that drinks exclusively strawberry milk. That is all the chat, and she has her motto, which they gave her, which is "Milk doesn't lie."
Nice.
And a bunch of interesting kind of enigmatic traits. She's a kleptomaniac, and she's really suspicious, and she's definitely willing to break some eggs to make that omelet. So she's really interesting and fun to play, and kind of a bit throws a wrench into things with everyone else, and pops in and out at different points in the series. So it's really interesting the turn that's taken, because I don't think anyone had any inkling that a character like Kira would exist, and the chat had other ideas.
Is that kind of stressful as an actor? I mean, I feel like, when you are a character, you kind of have the luxury of going to a showrunner and being like, I feel like this should be my motivation or that should be my motivation. But you've given up all creative control. Does that create a level of stress or tension for you?
More than giving up creative control, I'd like to think about it as the audience and I are collaborating. Because, as a fan myself of the show, I also get to contribute to that. And, the team's been really great. Bernie's been nice enough to take those moments to chat with me where I'm like, all right, I need to talk this out so I know where I'm coming from, because as much as a lot of it is just on the fly coming from the audience, the majority of it, I want to make sure that I'm doing it justice and that they're getting something really good and meaty and entertaining out of it. And then also, you already had this menagerie of really interesting characters, right? So I wanted to make sure that she didn't just come across as this random collection of chat jumble. I wanted her to feel like a real person in this world with everyone else. So that's been kind of the journey with that. But I mean, it definitely keeps you on your toes, because you don't know what the chat's going to decide next, and what they're going to give Kira as another little piece of her backstory. So definitely have to be open and readjust course.
Chat jumble is a great word for what the chat gives us. It's a chat lot jumble. It's a chat jumble out there.
It's ultimate ad libs.
Wow, yeah. I mean, a lot of almost like an improv experiment. Before I crack it open for the audience questions, I wanted to. I think this is primarily for Bernie and Evan. I want you to explain some of the more recent technological aspects of the show. There are ways you can affect the tone of the show while it's happening. I understand, or I think I understand, or I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so that is in this technology we use during the show called LifeScore. So LifeScore is an adaptive music tech, and it actually uses AI in its technology. So
it's about artificial intelligence, and now it employs artificial intelligence.
Now the show actually uses AI to do the show, which was something I had to describe for the first season. It's like, hey, we're a show about AI. We don't use AI in the show, but now we do. So the music technology, what it is that it's a musical score that lays over the entire show. And in contrast, the first season was like a completely silent show. It was just all dialogue, and it's almost jarring to kind of go back and forth between the two formats. And it's fine. It worked that way then. And this version of the show is a different version of it. So the musical score is playing. And so how the interactivity works is that the audience through Twitch chat, specifically because we're on Twitch, the system will kind of parse all the data, look at the keywords. I'm happy, LOL, blah, blah, blah. That was amazing. And then shift the musical score based on the emotion of the chat. So it'll go from happy, sad to mysterious and intense. It's incredible. And I mean, I didn't know we were going to do this technology until like 2 months before the show started. And it has been just like a complete game-changing technology in the show. First, having music is the first thing. Having amazing music the second, and then having this really just absolutely bonkers system where the audience can control the music. And how it's not like they have full reign, right? So to be fair, like I can always mute them. I haven't yet, but I also will still direct it. So I was, as we were talking about kind of earlier before this panel, like there are different themes. So each character or each group of characters has a musical theme. So Elle has a theme. Kira's character, her group of characters has a theme, and the kind of villains of the show have a theme. So when I know the scene is coming, because you know we do kind of plan the scene, I will play the theme, but then I'll just let the audience pick where it's going to go. So there have been times where they've taken a scene which I would probably classify as a mysterious scene, and they've turned it into like an intense scene. Or they'll take a scene where I think is like a happy scene or turn it mysterious. So it completely changes the mood of the show. And there have been times where they've absolutely just trolled us. So that has happened too, where it's like, this is supposed to be an intense scene. Why are they happy? Why do they keep saying happy? That has happened. And I'm like, well, that's the audience. If they're gonna go in like this, all good, happy to play with you guys. But that is the technology. And I think it's incredibly fascinating. And then yesterday, what's coming up is that, so last night's stream we did, Philip Shepard, who's the CEO of LifeScore, who also composed one of the themes for Detroit Become Human, the video game, also about AI. So we actually, through chat, we together composed a new theme for Lilith, Tiffany's character, which will be debuting in the show in a couple of weeks. And that was one where we purposely held back because, as I said, her character was blank slate in the beginning. So like, how do you theme a blank slate character? I don't know. So we said, let's wait till mid-season. Let's do this thing live with the audience and let the audience compose this theme with us and get that in the show. And then they'll, of course, be able to get to ping it around once it's in the system.
That's fantastic. I mean, I really feel like what you guys are doing is the future of all entertainment. It's really blowing my mind. I don't think this stuff could have been done a decade ago. And all I can think of is how exciting it's going to be for the future, not just for artificial, but for entertainment in general. Sci-fi horror lends itself so well to these new technologies. But enough for me. Let's talk to some of the people who have been watching along on Facebook.
Can I just say that Vomideus1 just commented? Can I just say Vomideus1 just commented, just wait for the LifeScore AI to become sentient and take over the show, which, like, plot twist, LifeScore kills Lilith for her body and then takes over. And then you just have to play LifeScore.
Spoiler. I don't know.
Oh man, you're giving
spoiler alert.
You're giving your audience a lot of ideas. They might hold you to it.
Out there.
Tiffany's gonna learn Tiffany's gonna learn how to play some instruments. So that's what's gonna happen.
Well, I mean, Tiffany already plays.
Does play an instrument. Yeah. Didn't I read it on your IMDb page? You play a traditional instrument?
I do. So I played piano, and then a few years after that, my parents started me off with erhu, which is a traditional Chinese instrument that you put on your lap. It's called like the Chinese fiddle, and you play it like this.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Great,
I have a question for you.
Perfect.
I have a question for you, Tiffany. Basically, it's someone asking about the challenges of playing a robot. You know, what's involved in portraying a character who is essentially a simulation of a human being?
Well, funny story, in one of my first acting classes that I went to, the coach called me a robot. And now I am. So, haha.
Joke's on you.
You showed him.
Yeah, and then I think as far as me processing the script, it helps me be more, I guess, look at everything more logical, like everything without any emotions. And it's just simply a choice. And then you have the pros and cons that support it. And it just depends on what your choice is. So that's just kind of how I approach it.
I like it. I like it. You know, I also like how you're keeping your responses nice and concise, because all it really does is make me more and more curious about the show. So, no, good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you. Another question from the audience. This is for Alejandra. What has your experience been like jumping into a show with this live format and a character that's been designed by the audience with all the varieties that came with it, like the strawberry milk obsession?
Yeah, I mean, how many people can say that they're playing an audience created character? Like it's wild. And I remember getting the first call from Bernie because I didn't know she was a fan created character at the point at which I booked the role. But she had all of these weird little idiosyncratic things like the strawberry milk, like she drinks only strawberry milk, that made more sense once I knew that she was fan created. But getting told, yeah, basically this is a fan created character that we're introducing into this interactive live sci-fi scripted series. So I mean, it's just been like a jump in and do it. It's been a wild ride, but everyone's been so great and the whole team's been like really supportive and really welcoming. And Kira, I think chat wise, she's a pretty polarizing character because she's usually on the maybe opposite side of a lot of our heroes, so she can make a lot of people very frustrated. But I kind of like that she throws a wrench into things. So it's been a really fun experience, and I mean, for me, a very new experience because I'm coming to it from doing primarily voiceover. So it's been a lot of fun to do that and to be able to tell a story in a new format. The remote aspect of it is fairly similar to doing voiceover, and we as actors have to work off of a lens and not our fellow actors, which is a little bit of a challenge. So it's all just been taking everything as it comes and just doing it.
No, fantastic. Fantastic. We got one for Christy St. John. Wait. Yeah, that's your last name, right? St. John?
St. John, yeah.
All right. What's the most unusual fan-created part of your character?
I feel like the weirdest thing that I can think of is when lasagna was mentioned like once and the audience really ran with it. And I haven't eaten lasagna on the show since that happened. It's like my mom was like, "Did you get the lasagna I sent over?" And I was like, "Yeah." And the entire episode, people couldn't shut up about lasagna. So I feel like the fact that I've probably eaten a lot of lasagna during quarantine.
That's pretty funny. Same question for you, Tiffany.
She has a lot here. There's a lot that she has to go through.
There's a lot.
I don't know if there's anything specific I can necessarily think of, but I think what was so interesting, like before, now that we're season 3, like before we started this project going in, I didn't really know where this show would be going towards. And it was really fun discovering it with Bernie and the rest of the team, how the show went with, our first lives and really developing then Sophie's character with what her favorite color is. And even, starting with season 2 with adding on with life score, I think that's like so amazing, so mind-blowing. And also naming her Lilith. And I think adding on these new personality traits was much different than what happened in season 1 and season 2, where she was formed by learning off the audience, and versus this season where the audience gets to choose certain things and kind of impose it on her in this way and learning through that. So I don't think, there's a lot of weird things. All of these are really weird.
Definitely. Well, fantastic. We're getting a lot of questions that I think are for Bernie and Evan kind of together, and maybe they can go back and forth on some of these. Someone mentions that the show spotlights some controversial topics that are becoming more and more timely. Have your storylines been influenced by current events?
I think Evan could definitely speak to that one. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the school shooting that kind of was the impetus.
Yeah, unfortunately, school shootings are a regular occurrence in America and have been. So, do you think the question means like technological developments or kind of American social political developments?
I think it's probably more like, you know, what's going in the headline, what's going on in the headlines and things like that.
I would assume it's social political, like a school shooting for sure is like it's a hot button topic and a hard issue to handle. We've talked about sexual harassment, stuff like that.
Right, we did. Right, Elle says she was harassed, right? So she doesn't really out anybody. I know this is impossible to imagine this actually happening in society.
I know, right?
Bernie, what do you think? Have we consciously embraced? I didn't really think that was like a political statement in Elle's case. I just thought that was sort of what we thought was right for the character.
Yeah, and so what Evan's speaking to is that Elle's backstory, which is canon, is revealed, is that during the character's advanced studies, a professor makes a pass at her, she rejects him, and then he starts torpedoing her career, like her PhD program. And when Evan and I were working on this part of her backstory, Evan had stated that he had heard of this happening a lot. That I paraphrase. Evan, it happens.
Well,
it happens.
Christy can speak to it better than, but you know, I'm a professor actually is my main job, so I can give you plenty of anecdotal evidence that this happens. So
okay, so we said let's just write that in. It feels very authentic. You know, both Evan, I have no personal experience with this, but both Evan and Christy both have, you know, the anecdotal, at least, if not direct experiences with this. So like, boom, that's coming into the show. And I think that you know, it is a little social political, or it is, I guess. But one of the things is that I actually personally just really try to keep us very neutral in that area, because I want to present. I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just like, I don't want it to become a soapbox, is what I'm saying. I don't want the show to become a soapbox. So we say it happens. No one's refuting it happens. The people the characters are authentic to the experience that it happened and speak authentically from that experience. And you, the audience, get to make that determination of which side are you on. Are you sympathizing with Elle, or are you not? Totally up to you. And so we continue to do this with our latest episode, with the trial episode, because the trial, I'll just very quickly describe the comparison without characters. So Sandy Hook, Alex Jones, for years, was saying that Sandy Hook was fake. It was
right.
Okay. That's out there. No one's refuting that. I think Alex Jones has now recanted that, but for years he has said that. Okay, and so the analogy we have is that if one of the Sandy Hook victims' parents had recreated one of their deceased children as an AI being, as a child robot, and that being went and murdered Alex Jones, what's that case? What does that trial look like? And even though that has not happened, I know from the people who work on the show who've talked to their AI friends, when I tell them that that's what we're doing, they're like, wow, that will be a topic. It will be, because the self-driving car that decided to run into the person in Arizona or whatever, like the car that's going to save the driver versus, you know, avoid the accident or whatever. Like these choices by the AIs are going to be happening, and they're going to have consequential impacts to humans at some point. And where will the societal laws, not just the laws, but society fall on that spectrum? I think that's what we presented really biasly well this season with our last episode, and kind of driving to that, because you know, Christy's on the side of, hey, like, it's not Matt's fault, that the creator's fault. Alejandra's character is on the opposite side. It's absolutely his fault. He built the robot. That robot murdered the person. It's his fault. And that split is what a very real debate from our colleagues are saying it's going to happen. That debate is going to happen, and that's the kind of the future of this, and that's how we kind of pull it in. The current social landscape, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's all very cutting edge, 100%. Here's a question for all the people who worked on season 1 and 2, what was it like transitioning from acting on a live set to doing it remote? And do you have a preference?
Well, that's Tiffany.
That's Tiffany.
Tiffany.
I think it would be nice if we could see each other because one, obviously, real human connection, and I think also the fact that like sometimes we have tech problems, so that becomes an issue sometimes with Wi-Fi's and power outages. But yeah, I definitely feel like the fact that it works, we're able to make it work. The writers are able to make it work, that we're still able to have scenes and have calls together with these characters when we're all quarantined.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really amazing.
It's definitely amazing. I mean, obviously you guys couldn't have planned it unless you can see into the future, but the show is very timely. It seems like it was made for current situation. Here's a question for everyone. How much of the show, well, it says it's for everyone, but it might be different for everyone. Different people might have different takes. How much of the show's dialogue is scripted and how much is improvised?
It's all scripted.
All scripted.
Well, let me clarify. So, we script everything as the writers. So even when an audience member asks a character a question and that character has to give an answer to that question, we script that answer. So that script exists on either a printed page for pre-scripted stuff, a screen so we can be dynamic with it and change it as we go. The actors are free to ad-lib from that script, and they're encouraged to, because we want them to sound natural to it. So, and there have been times, I think Christy especially does this really, really well, where she ad-libs and plays with it. They add things. And Justin, who's not here, but Justin also does really well too. So, and then they play off together. It can get really, really funny, and it's almost like unplanned. It becomes funny. So it is scripted. It is 100% scripted. It's not really improv. It's more ad-libbable. It's like an ad-lib series. And one of the main reasons why we do this is that because it's a serialized sci-fi show that builds week to week, we have to be beholden to the canon, the science fiction canon that we established, or the story canon too, both of these. So what we don't want to have happen is if we don't have an answer there, it's like, just give an answer, Christy or Alejandro, or whoever. They may break canon. They may break their own character canon. They may say something that's already been established. They may say something like, if Tiffany has to describe how her character's like power source works, she may not remember what that is. It's like, we as the writers know what it is, or we have our version of that. And so we just, here it is. It's this, just say this. And ideally it takes some of the pressure off, which I know is already a high pressure show because we do the show live. And so we're trying to take away things that they have to worry about as much as we can, because we know they're worrying about enough about the show already.
I know for me, I try very hard to watch the chat, and I know that a lot of actors don't, because the chat can be full of trolls, and there's always someone who's like, I don't like this. What is this? And it's like, all right, you just got here, calm down. But especially if there's something that I see over and over again regarding my character. Last week's episode, I played the judge of a trial, and what people kept saying the entire time was like, wow, Elle's pretty biased. Try to remain impartial, Elle. Which made sense. And it was something I hadn't thought of as a through line for my character. And I added that in. And like, that was a bit of improv where I was literally like, okay, try to be, I was talking to myself, just try to be impartial. I'll try to be impartial. Because I think that's one of the great benefits of doing it on Twitch is you get that like automatic feedback interaction.
That's really part of what makes the show so unique. Here's a question for you, Christy and Alejandra. Someone wants to know, were there any specific ways you had to rearrange your homes to reflect your character, or just for the sake of the show?
I have to clean every week, and that's very annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it's my home, but basically everything that is the Kira set, I put there to be Kira's set. So, she has her bookshelf with a bunch of stuff there, and there are a bunch of little Easter eggs that are things that I either thought about the character or that come directly from the things that the chat gave her. Little things that have changed here and there. But yeah, that was all built
What are
for
the Easter
Kira.
eggs?
Well, one of them is the clocks, right? There's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, there are like a bunch of clocks because obviously Kira, she's a kleptomaniac.
Obviously.
And if we weren't in quarantine, you'd see a lot more things changing on the bookshelf, right? But it's like, well, she can't really leave the house, so what is she taking? But the clocks are definitely a nod to that. And her being a PI and having like Sebastian always throws to these things that she regrets, so it's a little bit of a play on like stealing time and trying to fix the things that didn't go so well in the past. And then I have the little cork board that as we went through and as scripts came out, I would add little bits and pieces on Post-its to the cork board, kind of following the investigation. And like anytime I got any new information from a scene, like that went up on the board, and I just make sure it's either written small enough, that it's not actually distracting or people can't actually read it, but it's all there and it's all like directly taken from that, or like newspaper clippings that like I have an obituary column there that it'll show like the obituary part, and then you just can't really see the article, but it's supposed to be Nathan Keene. And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening there.
See, this is amazing because I didn't know like half of that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I'm not any of that.
It was for me, guys.
Yeah.
This is the collaboration part I was talking about.
I also thought I was doing a good job because I vacuum once a week.
Oh, fantastic. Here's another one for Evan and Bernie. Give us some examples of the most dramatic ways the audience interaction has driven the plot.
Evan, I'll let you start there. Season 1. Start us there.
I was gonna go. It's interesting.
Or say season 3. Go ahead. Yeah.
My first instinct, I thought the strawberry milk is a really, really interesting example. Actually, before I say what I think, Alejandra, may I ask you how you experience that kind of influence of that choice on your character?
I mean, all of them are kind of the same in a way, because it's like it all has to be a part of it, and it all has to feel natural, right? So it's just really going with it and following it and trying to be as honest to that, even if it's anything out of left field or surprising. It has to feel like, oh, that was always the case, right?
Right. So, like, it's interesting. That's what I would have said too, is going with it, because it's one of the few choices that the audience made that, like, as a writer is hard, because I think, I'm external to your character in some sense, right? Since it was created by the audience, I think your character projects a great deal of intelligence. It's hard for me to reconcile with an adult who only drinks strawberry milk, right? It's an odd choice.
Right.
And so that shapes my perception of the character. And I'm really like, the audience built it and you're acting it. So I'm just kind of watching. So I think that's
part of it too is like, she is also a PI, right? So she
very
has
good,
to have
very good at it.
Right. And so, I mean, there has to be something there. Like, clearly the kleptomania and a lot of the other things have contributed to her maybe not being as successful or not having as many possibilities. But I mean, I see the strawberry milk thing as just being like, that's a personal quirk of hers, and it doesn't necessarily affect her level of intelligence or maybe her career choice. Recently that obviously was a question from the chat, which it's funny because they are the genesis of that. And then yet in the chat, when I did the live, the question for Kira was, why do you only drink strawberry milk? It's like, well, if we're being honest, because that's, how she was created. But, you guys as the writing team get in there and bring up these answers like on the spot. And we got a little bit of her backstory in that obviously she comes from a family with not so many means, and it was just one of those things that was available to her, and it stayed with her. And so it almost can reflect like that level of intelligence and that level of kind of fight that she has is trying to claw her way out of those situations and make something of herself on the other side of it. And some things just stayed with her.
That's brilliant. It's the show is lucky to have you, that you have that attitude about embracing it. There's tons of stuff the audience has decided that was extraordinarily consequential. In the first season, the audience was asked to vote on a book that was integral to Sophie's development. And the audience chose The Color Purple by Alice Walker. And it was a writing choice. It was a writing challenge. We had to go and write the next episode to frame it around her having read that book. It was a theme that recurred throughout the season. There were references back to the book and kind of some of the issues that are raised. The audience decided at the end of season 2 to terminate Sophie. So obviously that's consequential. And last week the audience just decided to narrowly to give Matt a pass. So he survives.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, everyone. I really feel like, even though we've been at this for the best part of an hour already, that we're really just scratching the surface of the show. I've only really gotten through about a quarter of the questions. I have some notes I've been taking at the time. We really might have to have you guys back because we're pretty much running out of time here. But before we wrap things up, I want to just thank you all again, and I want to check in with each of you. Tell me a little bit about what else you're doing in addition to Artificial, or just talk a little bit about Artificial and what makes it so special, and what you're looking forward to as the show progresses. Christy St. John, let's start with you.
Can you repeat the question? I was very excited about this crazy theory that Kira only drinks strawberry milk because she's like Mad-Eye Moody from Harry Potter.
There you go.
She's paranoid about being poisoned.
No, this is just your opportunity to talk about your other projects, or just about what makes Artificial so special.
When I started Artificial, I thought the live streamed aspect was going to be the hardest, but that actually was very easy to fit into, probably because I, like most actors, come from theater. But certainly the remote is hard, especially working my own home. It's hard to like go to bed over there, get up and come and sit here and then go through this whole emotional journey while like still being connected to everybody. So I'm very excited whenever we do get to have a wrap party, or even in future seasons, be able to be together and work together. Coming up, you can follow all of my adventures on my Instagram at Christy_St. John. And also I am on a sitcom which had its premiere tonight for the most recent season, called In the Cut on Bounce TV. And I am in next week's episode, which premieres, I'm not exactly sure what time, but it premieres next Wednesday. I think it's at 5 p.m. PST, but you can check it out on In the Cut at Bounce TV, or just follow me on Instagram and I will absolutely post about it.
The scenes I've seen of that character, Krista, I'm just like, it's hilarious. like you're so funny.
It's very different. It's very different.
Totally different. It's so different.
It's so different. I play a character where like she's dumb. That's all she is. She's just dumb, and it's very fun.
Well,
and very emotional too, I think.
Oh yeah.
It's been delightful having you on the panel. Like I said, I really think we have to have another one with you guys to really dive into some more of this. So thank you for being here, Christy. Alejandra, thank you for being here. What are you working on now? What's so great about Artificial? Where can people see you next?
I mean, we've been touching on it for the whole hour, right? But I mean, there's nothing else like it, and it's very much informing where media and interactive media is going to go. And I'm just so excited to be a part of it. And everyone on the team is so passionate about the project, which is awesome when you can work with people that love what they do. And I also look forward to there being a possibility for us to actually like work in the same space and actually meet everyone, because this is like the second time I'm virtually interacting with Tiffany, and the first time it was exclusively as Kira. So so I would love to actually meet everyone and be able to work off of another human or off of an AI. Yeah, I mean, I'm a voice actor. I've been in the studio through quarantine, even here remotely, so there's stuff coming. I can't talk about a lot of stuff because you know how it goes. So stuff coming out. If you want to know when it's out, you can follow me on social media at Ale Reynoso, and then the O's are zeros because my name was taken. So ALEREYN0S0, and that's on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, Facebook. So yeah.
Well, fantastic. It's been a joy having you here, and congratulations on Artificial. Tiffany, the the being at the center of it all. Thank you so much for being here. How has artificial changed your life, and where do you see it going in the future?
Artificial has been very exciting. It was my second project right after I shot my first movie, called Miss Purple, and it's on Hulu right now if you guys haven't watched it. And it's just been really exciting from season 1, season 2, and season 3, which is completely different with way more new cast. And I personally love it. It's my favorite season. And it's, especially with life score and everything else, I think this season has just been super and then I'm just really excited to see when the season ends, when we have the wrap party, to actually meet up with everyone else, because we've all just been working remotely and I haven't met anyone from basically the new cast.
Well, fantastic. Hopefully all of this is behind us shortly and we're all free to commingle per normal, and you can all make the human connections that have been missing in season 3. Thank you so much for being here. The show clearly wouldn't be what it is without you. Your characters are fantastic and really intelligent, and it's just a really exciting show to be discovering. So thank you for sharing your time with us this evening. Evan, what's so great about Artificial, and how would you, if you were describing the show, a lot of our viewers or horror fans might be hearing about it for the first time, how would you sell them on the show?
Well, if you said Black Mirror is a reference point for your fans, so I'm a big Black Mirror fan. So imagine if instead of choosing your way through a series of pre-scripted adventures, the audience collectively decided the single outcome of Bandersnatch. So I think there's actually a very strong community around the show. So Christy was referring to Amadeus, who's been there since day one. And I think for the people who love it, they're devoted to it. I just want to echo one thing that you said, Josh. I've always said this, and I still believe it. So I didn't know about everybody's degrees, and not that that's the ultimate measure of intelligence, but having a Carnegie Mellon and a Stanford and a UC Irvine degree, and Toru Masanami, who plays Matt, is an MIT grad. And the part of the credibility of the show is not just the acting brilliance of the actors, it's also their actual intelligence, because I think audience can perceive when somebody is saying something that they really actually have no understanding of whatsoever, unless I guess you're the best actor in the world, maybe. But I think that intelligence projects in so many ways to the show, and it's what I think gives it the realism that it actually has. So it's obviously a credit to Bernie and all of the writers, but I've always thought that the acting was the greatest strength of the show. Oh, yeah. What do I have going? I have a novel coming out in the end of October. I'm working on a TV show about the first woman to clerk at the Supreme Court. And I told you I'm an academic, so I'm finishing a book about how elite colleges exacerbate social inequality.
Wow. Fantastic. Thank you for spending your time with us this evening. I'm really excited to see where the show goes. And like I said, I'm not against having y'all back, because I feel like we really just cracked this nut, and I want to dive in. Bernie Sue, the showrunner, co-creator of Artificial, take us home with some final words.
Sure. I will say one thing, that Tiffany plays Miss Purple in Miss Purple, so she's the lead, so you should check out that movie for sure.
Absolutely.
And she's excellent in it, and a very different character, of course. So check that out. Yeah, for myself, I'm doing this show. I've brand myself as an interactive storyteller. This is my thing. I want to keep doing stuff like this. I want to keep building the audience in the shows. As Evan kind of alluded to with the kind of choose your own adventure example, the way I look at this is that I want the audience to feel like they have purpose in the story, like they feel like they matter in it. And I don't want it to be a gimmick. I want it to feel like we're all in together. The idea of, could you help Harry Potter defeat Voldemort, or you're just watching him do it? You know, like that's the analogy. Like that to me is the kind of the grail of it. I think last week during the Matt trial, the audience rallied and saved Matt. Whether or not they thought he was guilty or not, they wanted him innocent, and they did it. So that's what the beauty of the format is. And I'm going to be continuing to do in the space. Artificial we're still, have plenty of episodes left this season. I am very biased, of course, but I think, as all of us have said, there's nothing like it. There's no experience like this. You are watching a sci-fi series play out in real time, where you, the audience, can be consequential at it. So sure, you can watch the episodes and catch up. That's perfectly fine. We hope you enjoy them, but there's nothing like being there live and trying to help or hurt the characters you're watching on screen, that you learn to care about, that you learn to love or hate. It's okay. Right? And there's nothing like that experience, and we present that on the show.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you've described is just completely new. We live in an era where fandom has become toxic in some ways because people are so invested in the characters they love, in the stories they love. What a great, thrilling thing that there's a show where you can be a fan of it and you can get invested in it, and then you can actually have a say in what happens. It's perfect for this era. It's perfect for fans who enjoy fandom. It's something that I'm really excited to learn even more about, and that I hope a lot of Dread Central readers who might be hearing about it for the first time are going to go and check out. Thanks again to all of my panelists for being here. I'm Josh Milliken, Editor-in-Chief at Dread Central. This has been Dissecting Horror with the cast and creatives of Artificial, a Twitch series that won Twitch its first Emmy that you can see. Bernie, tell us what nights it plays.
Artificial plays Thursdays nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/artificialnext, N-E-X-T. You can also find us on social media, Artificial Next on Twitter, Artificial Next on Facebook, and we're Artificial Next 1, the number 1 on Instagram.
Fantastic. I'm going to be catching up so that I can start playing live. I highly recommend everyone else do so. Thanks again to this wonderful panel, this creative show, this really intelligent movement in entertainment. I can't wait to see what happens next. All hail Artificial. Thanks for tuning in. Good night, everyone.